Tim, how much is 2 lakh?
When it comes to lack, I lack nothing. Okay,
That's 200,000. Hello and welcome to episode 5 of JoomCast, the podcast that features people who are part of the Joomla community and discover how they got there, what they contribute to Joomla, and where they're going, along with a bunch of nonsense. My name is Chetan Madaan of JoomDev, and I'm here with my co-host Tim Davis of Cybersault and Basic Joomla Tutorials YouTube channel. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Chetan, it's good to be with you again. You know, it seems just like yesterday we recorded our last episode.
It was actually yesterday.
Oh, that's right. It was yesterday. Anyways, that's great. We're keeping on track with keeping ahead of our schedule, so we have a new JoomCast out every other Monday. For those of you who don't know about Joomla, Joomla is a very popular CMS or content management system for building websites. As of today's recording date, Joomla is running version 3.9.8 stable, and for Joomla 4, we have the version Alpha 9. Joomla 4 is the next big version of Joomla. It's expected to come around the end of this year, 2019.
And we want to hear from you. You can contact us on Twitter at JoomCast, or if you're listening to us on Anchor.fm app, you can push the message button and leave a voice comment for up to a minute long. We might even include it in our future episode. Let's meet our guest for today, who is Ramesh Subramaniam. He's from India, and he is the founder and owner of J2Store, a very popular e-commerce Joomla extension. How you doing, Ramesh?
Hey guys, thank you for having me on the JoomCast. It's a pleasure to meet Tim, Chetan. It's absolutely fantastic to be on the show, and things are great, actually.
Which is the bigger pleasure, meeting me or Chetan?
Both, I should say. So
yeah, just don't say my name because we're using Zoom. Again, I told you, Tim pays for this account, and if he disconnects, the podcast is over. So,
Ramesh, tell us about yourself and what you do.
I was actually the co-developer of J2Store. And J2Store is as you know, is a very popular e-commerce system in Joomla. I'm a father of 2 beautiful children, actually, based in India. It's in the southern parts of India. It's a small town called Coimbatore. So we work from here. We have a team of about around 15 people who are actually working in the J2Store in several aspects of J2Store. And I'm also a big-time fan of Joomla. And we have a very huge ecosystem built around Joomla. J2Store itself has more than 75 plus payment gateways, plus 45 plus apps and integrations with lots of shipping carriers. And it actually helps more than 50,000 plus store owners to run their business online and take payments and sell goods, both physical and digital goods there. And one thing what makes me interesting is that the Joomla community from the very start has actually supported an extension that is made by people like us from a small town. We should actually thank the Joomla community for having us. That is what makes Joomla actually beautiful, and that's what makes me believe Joomla has a fantastic future as well.
Now, when you say small town, how small is your town?
It has a population of about 2 lakh plus people. In India, it is actually a small town.
Tim, how much is 2 lakh?
200,000 actually.
No. I was going to ask Tim because he doesn't know what lakh is.
When it comes to lack, I lack nothing.
That's 200,000.
So, Ramesh, you're big-time Joomla now, but there was a time when you were zero Joomla. So what's your Joomla story? How did you get into Joomla?
That's a pretty interesting story. Actually, I was a journalist. I was working in one of the leading English daily in India. It's called The Hindu, for about 8 years or so, before I become full-time developer and leading a company. If you wanted to hear a good story, you have to go back to about 8 years ago. That was the time when there is no smartphones. Basically, you get smaller phones like Sony Ericsson phones. So basically, the hardware of Sony Ericsson phone actually supports multiple different features. Only thing is that the operating system is alone varied. There is something called a process called a flashing. So what happens is that if you flash a higher version of an operating system into a lower version of Sony Ericsson phone hardware, you get all the features, for example, Walkman. So I was actually very excited about this being a techie, very tech enthusiast, and Linux, especially open source enthusiast. So this got me into doing it. And then one day I wanted to create a blog to blog about this flashing and then everything else. So that is when I actually discovered Joomla. My Joomla journey actually started, and then I ran the website for some time, and then I actually participated in the Joomla forum, asking lots of questions and got answers, and that's how the Joomla journey basically started.
You graduated from a mechanical engineering background or something like that? Is that how you got into this?
So again, that'll be a surprising aspect as well. So I was a Bachelor of Business Management.
Oh wow, that's totally irrelevant.
And then I went on to graduate in Mass Communication and Journalism.
Okay, well that's how you got into journalism though. So at least one positive relation there. Okay.
I discovered actually Linux long before Joomla. So I was actually a big time fan of Linux operating system and how the community operated. And then there was a time when the government in our part of the regional government has introduced Linux to schools and for all the schools. That is the time when Ubuntu was actually releasing 6.0. They have a program called Ship It. So we actually wrote to them, and then we got a huge shipment of Linux CDs and went to all schools and distributed. So that's how I was a big fan of Linux actually. At one point of time, I was having a Celeron computer with the 6 different Linux operating systems running. So that is kind of something, actually, it's my passion, basically.
So what you educated from and what you're doing right now is totally different and irrelevant.
Yeah, that's totally different if you wanted to really look into it. But I don't view programming as more really technical. See, programming is all about syntaxes, actually. So it is like a language. If you want me to be very honest opinion, learning a language like French or something like that, is Chinese or something like that, is the toughest part than learning a programming language.
At least you can somewhat relate, because when it comes to the logics in programming, you can still use, your same brain. But when it comes to Chinese, learning Spanish for someone who speaks English is easier than learning Chinese, which is totally different, because the grammar and the dialects and everything, it's totally different there.
So when I was actually asking lots of questions, one day, surprisingly, a gentleman was actually sent a private message asking, hey, can you help me with my website? I was having a hard time in building it. So I started actually helping it. And then he said he will pay for me. So that is how I got into freelancing.
So this was on the official Joomla forums. You were just helping someone and someone offered, hey, if you can help me, I'll pay you for this.
Yeah, I was actually doing a journalism, and then I had quite a bit of spare time. So I was actually doing a bit of freelancing. Then I got into programming, because that is where my passion lies, like being a techie and nerd and kind of stuff. So soon I started, coding extensions in Joomla, custom extensions and plugins for the customers who actually came and then asked for it. So it is basically, I learned a bit of PHP, and it is more than the PHP, like I said. It is the logic and how the way you implement it, and the method and the approach is more important than what the programming language itself, the syntaxes itself. So I learned it very quickly. I started, helping with them custom projects. So then I wrote an interesting piece of extension that actually went hugely popular. It's called, actually, my first extension in Joomla it's called J2Store. It's an e-commerce extension for the popular CCK called K2.
I always had maybe I never read it, but I always had the understanding that it was done by the K2 team. Was it released under their name, or was it released under your name?
Yeah, it was released under our name. See, what actually found it is that while working in Joomla, in different custom projects, especially in the programming part of it, I found the existing e-commerce systems and the extensions are quite bloated, and their learning curve is actually quite huge. An ordinary store owner will not be able to manage his store online catalog, or it's not that easy, basically. So it is not it. So he has to go through a deep learning curve before he can actually manage it. So what I did is that I created a simple extension. Actually, it helps you to create a K2 item, and you set the price there itself and click a button, say, okay, treat it as a product, and just publish it. Now your product is ready.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask how you came up with that, because that was my exact experience with a very big complex one that I had used for a long time. And when I gave J2Store a try and I saw, oh my goodness, the article is actually the product in the cart, I was like, that is just amazing. So how did you come up with that idea?
So the idea actually first started with the K2 store itself. So we used K2 items as products. So one point of time, we found that even K2 items have a bit of a steep learning curve. So working with K2 also. So lots of people are actually using the basic Joomla articles. That is when we came up with the idea of J2 store. So this idea is basically to help the store owners to sell online. That's it. If you look at the entire e-commerce arena especially in the Joomla ecosystem, majority of the store owners are using their website to sell the products. That is, the store is actually a part of their website. It is the store itself is not the store. It is not entirely an e-commerce platform. So 60 to 70% of the store owners are actually wanted to sell maybe 8 products, 10 products, even 50 products maximum. We actually took a survey and then we found that majority of the store owners, the maximum catalog size is actually less than 100. Because a store owner with more than 500 plus or 200 plus catalog item is able to afford an in-house developer or a webmaster. So he doesn't have to go through the learning curve.
So what you're trying to target is someone who has enough products and wants to spend some money but doesn't have enough money to hire a developer in-house and get that person to do the job for him.
Yeah, because he loves Joomla and then he created his website in Joomla. But now if he has to create a store, he finds it too very difficult. Okay, let's use articles as products because article has everything. It has the title, it has the description, you can add an image. What else you need? You only have to set a price and just publish it.
Obviously, J2Store is now built on Joomla, but first you went on K2Store and you said, you figured out a lot of people don't use K2 and go with the Joomla articles by default. What made you take the decision to start with K2 first rather than starting with Joomla articles in the first place?
I was actually trying to build a blog for myself, right? That was the time when K2 was also released. I was using K2 for blogging and all other stuff. And then K2 came with an extending capability built in. So building a simple shopping cart, if I look back, I think I built K2 store with one payment gateway, probably, and I finished it in 2-3 days, I guess.
Jason Fried, if you know the guy,
Yeah, I know, rework,
he says, itch your own itch, so don't worry about what the word wants. Try to figure out what you want first.
And the reception to K2 store and also to J2 store was huge, actually. If you look at the first version, Joomla's founder, Brian Tiemann itself, gave him a huge talk and a presentation, actually a complete demo about how to use J2 store in Joomla Day.
That's huge, right? Because, the only e-commerce extension up until a few years ago I was aware of in Joomla was VirtueMart. Everyone would use VirtueMart. And, VirtueMart is as old as Joomla, right? Because before VirtueMart got into Joomla, I think back in 2004, it was called PHP Shop. That's why the URL and classes were all weird. That's why it wasn't using the Joomla MVC structure, because it was built out to be outside Joomla and it was using the same code base to be inside Joomla. Until they rebuilt it all in VirtueMart 2, I think a couple of years back. But that's huge. You come in out of nowhere, and you push a very big player, e-commerce player in the Joomla market away. Maybe, what are your thoughts on that?
There is an interesting perspective in the way we actually look at the competition, basically. So we should not think that actually there is a competition. Joomla has space for these players and multiple players in whatever area you take it. Okay, even if you take it in e-commerce, so it has the space because the person who's actually using VirtueMart may be using it for a large catalog store that actually requires a huge customization and lots of stuff. But a person actually who wanted to use J2Store may not be having that, and vice versa. It depends on the use case of the store owner. The store owner actually decides which system he has to go in. We do not want to, redo whatever VirtueMart or any other shopping cart player actually did. We actually wanted to do something very, very minimal. And also there is one more thing actually I love about Joomla is that if you remember in Joomla 1.5, the MVC pattern was very, very, very minimal basically. Especially in 1.0. In 1.5, they have improved it to a greater extent, and especially in 2.5, the MVC pattern was
Right.
beautiful, basically.
Right.
So if you look at J2Store journey also, initially we wrote it with a minimal MVC. Then within a year itself, we rewrote the entire code base from scratch and then released 2.x. And then after 2 years, we actually rewrote again from scratch. We built it on top of the FOF framework. Version 3.0 was built on top of. In J2Store 4, right now, we are rewriting the entire code base again to adhere to modern code base.
Oh, that's impressive.
The environment is evolving, people are evolving, store owners are evolving, everything, the entire ecosystem is evolving. If you keep on an old code base for a longer time, it's not actually that's the justification to the store owners, the end user. If you keep on doing a patchwork, what happens is that you end up with a system that is actually completely patchy instead of offering you a solution.
Yeah, I think one of the things that maybe caused that effect for them too, though, is that VirtueMart is so complex and it's such a broad community working on it. It's almost like a CMS, quote unquote, in and of itself. So not only do they have to keep up with Joomla, but they also have to move forward in the same way that Joomla moves forward as a community, with a structure, with people doing things, with people who are making an income, making things simply for VirtueMart. So in that sense, they almost have an extra layer that they have to deal with to try to keep current.
Yeah, and there is one more consistent decision we also made when we actually rebuilt J2Store 3.x, the version 3, is that we made it extendable. That is, the core is actually lightweight, and you add those pieces that you wanted it into your store. You can ignore the rest of it. You don't have to add all those features that actually comes with the entire e-commerce system. And then, let us say a shopping cart has more than 1,000 plus features. One store owner might be using just 100 of them. One might be using 500 of them. One might be using just 10 of them. It is not necessary for all of them to have all those features built in, and then when it boots up, everything actually boots up. That adds to your load time, performance, issues, management, complexities. There are hundreds and different of issues that are there. So what we did is that we actually made it as a pluggable in system.
So at a point, you're a small company. How did you scale J2Store and take it from that smaller bit to the large bit it is now?
So that's actually a good question. So how we scaled it is, if you look at our website itself, it is actually a content-first website. And if you look at starting from the documentation to video tutorials to everything, it is actually, there is a huge amount of content presented in a much organized way. When compared to other systems, if you look at our own and you can find it, it is actually completely organized in such a way. This is one approach we took. And the second approach we found actually is that the support system in most of the extension makers is actually not to the mark, because people are looking for answers within 24 hours. Not in 24 hours. Actually, they are looking for answers much quicker than they think. So we built a support system that actually responds to your questions and solves your problems within a single business day, most of the questions. And if the questions are complex and requires a developer attention, it will be solved within 48 hours or within 3 business days maximum. Right from the start, we've been using systems that actually, starting from day one, we are actually with the help desk. Whatever email you send, and it actually lands in a help desk actually. And the other thing we had is that after we launched version 3, we introduced Intercom. Intercom is an expensive chat system, but we still had it.
Intercom is for live chat and support tickets and stuff, right?
Intercom is primarily for pre-sales, because people will be coming in and they have to make a decision, because they are making a decision that is actually going to change their way they do business.
Right.
Because they are choosing an online store. Once they have chosen an online store, moving away from an online store is not just that easy.
So you figure that someone coming to your site is looking for e-commerce solution, whether they already have one or they're open to change. And so you would try to engage them right away as soon as they're on your site.
Yes, no, we engage them, and also they come and then ask their questions, because many of them wanted to make the decision, because we help them to make the decision. We guide them. They are actually presenting a problem that cannot be solved by J2 Store. We help them, tell them the different systems available in the Joomla ecosystem and that they can use. These are some of those initiatives that actually built a good branding for us. I do not believe in lots of inorganic marketing. We spent $0 for paid ads.
So it's all really content driving organic traffic, and then you being there to convert all that traffic.
With Joomla, the discovery of product is not a problem basically, because the customer actually discovers the product in JED or any other source of times.
Right.
But only thing is that where he faces the problem is that he's making that decision whether to use the system or not. And the other important thing that actually helped us to scale is that we created more than 75 plus payment gateway integrations and more than 15 plus payment shipping integrations. I think currently we have more than 80 plus apps, I guess. We even have an integration with Jovo CRM, and we have an integration with QuickBooks.
The other day, a client of mine, we were looking for an affiliate software, and we signed him up for iDev affiliate. And then he was using J2Store to sell products on his website. The free version, he only had like 2 ebooks he was selling. And to me, keeping iDev affiliate was important. So I was trying to make sure the e-commerce platform he's using does offer integration with iDev affiliate. And, J2Store did. So we just enabled the app plugin. We had to upgrade to the newer version, but we installed the iDev affiliate plugin, and, within minutes he was up and running. That's good. Making sure that your extension is not isolated and connects with other major players within or outside the community, I think is very important.
Those integrations actually played a crucial part in the scaling part.
Let's talk numbers, if you don't mind. You said you have more than, and I can see on your website, you have more than 350,000 downloads. What percentage of these are actually like paying customers?
Downloads is there as a reference point. If you look at the engagement, based on the engagement they come from, and then the number of support tickets we get, and then based on the number of influxes. So we have more than 50,000 plus active installation stores across the world.
50,000 Joomla sites that have J2Store installed one way or the other.
Either free or the paid version.
And what percent of that are using the paid version?
In most of them, one way or the other way, either they would have subscribed to the pro version or they have purchased an extension from us, plugin or a payment gateway from us.
That's great. So that's something who's listening to the podcast and, want to make some money. You can make extensions for Joomla and come make money with Ramesh and Tim, right?
Yeah, sounds like make money with Ramesh. Something that I think is lost on a lot of people that go into business for themselves is they want to make money, but to make money, you've got to spend money.
Yeah.
You've got to invest your time and money and have patience. Yeah.
But if you're going to have a good response time from a help desk in 24 hours, you're going to have to pay people to be sitting there helping and doing that.
And the reason I asked this question, Ramesh, is because I've seen in WordPress community, people post these transparency reports where what they do is these plugin developers or theme developers in WordPress, they post like, we're making this amount of money every month. These are our expenses and this is our profit. And that helps other people jump into the community and see and observe there's real money to be made if we do the heavy lifting, if we do the hard work. There's no one in Joomla doing that, So that was the reason I wanted to ask you this question, to see what kind of numbers are you running into. So just so other listeners can learn and see, okay, there's real money that is being made inside the Joomla platform as well.
I totally agree that in WordPress, people actually disclose what kind of numbers they have, what kind of number of installations they have, how many paid users actually they have, and
sometimes even they share the dollar figure, like the exact dollars they made on a month.
Exact dollar figure also. And also there are a number of experiments on the pricing points and quite a lot of other stuff they actually make available to the community. This is something that we always believe, and our entire team knows what actually we are doing and how much we are growing and how the community is active, and there are a number of things that actually factors they actually know about it. So one thing helps people, especially in a community system like in Joomla, especially in an open sources community, they come here out of passion. Yes, that is there. But there is something that they also have to look for. They have to pay for their bills. In order to pay for their bills, they need to have an assurance, okay, so I'm contributing this much amount of my time and effort and everything to this community. The community will take care of my needs, my family, or whatever, whoever depends on me. So these numbers are not just vague numbers, basically. This is one of those numbers that actually infuses confidence among the budding developers or people who are actually thinking about and then joining us and then.
Exactly. Right.
We're talking a lot about business, and part of your education is business management. So what are some tips or advice that you have for Joomla entrepreneurs, someone starting out or someone like me who's about a year and a half into being full-time, from your not only your education in business management, but your obvious success?
I don't measure myself as a success, basically. So we did whatever we believed in. So that is how I actually view it. If you look at the market, it doesn't have to be a Joomla. It does not make difference if whether you are a plugin developer or a theme developer or a WordPress developer or a person actually who is building a website. If you are very clear about what kind of value that you are actually going to deliver to your customer, and if you can communicate that value to your customer or a prospect, then you can make a successful business. See, that is the only thing that actually lacks with many of them. If you look at for example, take an extension developer or a theme developer. They keep on developing extensions that are actually irrelevant to each other.
Give me an example, if you will. Do you think you can talk about one?
No, I don't want to really mention any, but I can give you an example, basically. Okay, let us say there is an extension developer who actually developed a slideshow. Okay, a slideshow extension. Let us say he actually develops a donation extension as his next one. These are two actually totally irrelevant.
So what you're saying is someone should try to gain experience of a particular area and try focusing on that area instead of trying to do extensions of every different kind and testing what works for them and what does not, right?
Yeah, so this also works with the services business. For example, let us say you're building an e-commerce website. If you keep on specializing only on e-commerce websites, and you will find that niche paying you well, because one day you build an e-commerce website, other day you go and then build a community website. So what actually this indirectly conveys to your customer is that you are very inconsistent and you are not an expert, basically.
No, I hear you. Yeah, sticking to a niche. And really, it's all about trusting yourself, trusting your gut feeling if you think whether it's going to work or not. If you feel like it's going to work, you just stick to it and kind of be with it, keep doing the good work. And one way or the other, I think it pays off.
I think maybe your gut may be better than mine because my gut has failed me a number of times.
I totally understand their situation also. It is not that you should take whatever that comes into your pocket. At one point of time, you actually totally forget and then you become completely oblivious to what is in your pocket.
So you should try to stay focused on why you initially started, right?
Not only focused, you should also understand what kind of value you deliver to that customer and what kind of value that customer actually delivers to you.
Yeah, I think that's very important because when we were starting this podcast, I after the first episode, I think or even before the first episode, I asked Tim, hey, Tim, what value do you think this would have for the Joomla community? We must ask questions that I find it, not only I find interesting, but a regular Joomla community or our guest even would find interesting, and not only answering or listening to those questions he would find interesting. So if he's listening to another episode, he would find, okay, there is some value in it. So I'm learning not only about this other person who may be a giant in his Joomla business, but he's a nobody to me, but also learning how he got where he is and what techniques he used, specifics to the Joomla Joomla community on to getting where he is. So I think the value part is something very important. We should consistently question ourselves, what value are you delivering to your customers, whether it be an extension or whether that be a service or a podcast. Are your customers interested in what you're selling? And if the answer is yes, then I think you have it.
There are multiple aspects to it as well. So, okay, let us say you are an extension developer and there is a customer who actually comes in and asks you whether can you do this custom development for us.
Right.
If you take that custom development, actually what happens is that you are actually giving a complete commitment of your time and effort to that one customer and ignoring hundreds of them you already got acquired through your extension, that is your extension users. So your time and effort will be consumed towards the custom development rather than enhancing your customer experience for your extension users. So this is one important learning I actually got from Mark Lee from Stack Ideas. I would say he's my kind of inspiration, basically. So when I came into Joomla community and then I was actually looking through lots of websites, I found if you go to his support center and the way they communicate, the way they express it, the way they actually express their stand, be it on support, be it on custom development, be it on releases, and be it on announcements, newsletters, sending newsletters, or anything related to customer communication, you will find it is accurate and is correct and it is actually consistent. These are all accumulated learnings from the community. It is not just my insight. I got all these things from, I should thank Joomla community for helped my learning curve to grow. That is what actually makes me as an ardent fan of Joomla.
Hey everybody, Tim and Chetan here, and we're going to jump in at this point because we had such a long and good discussion with Ramesh. We decided we're going to break up this interview into 2 episodes. So this is actually going to become episode 5A, and then we will release 5B in a future date. When are we going to release that in the future date?
The following Monday. So this one, so you're going to have 3 episodes in a row because next week we're going to have another guest. So yeah.
Okay. What's coming up in part B, 5B, really fascinating discussion about where he sees J2Store and e-commerce and other things going in the next 5 years. So everybody make sure you tune in and listen to that. In the meantime, if you want to reach Chetan personally, his Twitter handle is @Chetan Madaan, ChetanMadaan. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me at Basic Joomla. And we welcome your comments and ideas and suggestions for guests for JoomCast or any ideas that you have for the podcast. Just tweet us at JoomCast, or if you're listening to us on Anchor.fm, hold the message button and leave us a comment. So, Chetan, I guess they're all going to hear us next week, and we'll just keep plugging away, getting more of this great content recorded.
Yeah. Until then, God bless and
enjoy your Joomla sites.
Bye-bye.